All right, let's go. Nick Wright joining us live. By the way, I want to the Josh Allen thing, and you were on this early, but I've said this before.
Oh, now everyone agrees. Now it's a popular opinion. Go ahead. What have you said before? Let me hear it. Everybody, I've been all alone, just looking at this island, eating coconuts by myself. Today, expensive real estate on Pump the Brakes on Josh Allen Island, but I interrupt. Go ahead. Let me hear it.
I will say this. We know coordinators matter. I mean, Kyle Shanahan made Matt Ryan the MVP. They matter. Yeah. This player is starting to go back to the Wyoming first-year Josh Allen, which is impatient, mechanics, won't slide, out of control. I mean, one of those picks last night was just awful. And it's like, okay, Brian Daboll may be really – I mean, we know Brian Daboll's good. He may be the link to Josh Allen being great and Josh Allen just being a talented turnover machine.
Well, so here's the thing, because I don't want to be obnoxious, but I'm going to be. Because for 3 years, I have been called a hot take artist, a troll. You don't actually believe this. And now all of a sudden, snap of your finger, everyone's like, this guy who 1 year ago today, Google it, America, what was being written about Josh Allen after the opening night game, Bills-Rams last year. He's the best quarterback in football. He's ascended past Mahomes. And what did I tell you then, before he had a bad season last year? That we are giving Josh Allen more credit for losing to Patrick Mahomes than Patrick Mahomes got for winning the game. And the Josh Allen deterioration did not begin last year. 2020, Josh Allen was spectacular. He almost won league MVP. His team made the conference championship game. It was the best year of his career. 2021, when Daboll was there, he was not above average in the league in passer rating. He had a 92 rating. And a year that Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl as an alternate, Josh Allen did not. But because he ended the season spectacularly with the Patriot-Chiefs playoff game, everyone pretended that didn't happen. And since that Chiefs playoff game, since Daboll left, Josh Allen has played 19 football games. He has 39 picks and fumbles in those 19 games, more than 2 a game. I sent out a tweet last night saying he had 37 between when I sent the tweet and when the game ended, he had 2 more fumbles. Like, guys, at some point, the results must matter. And I understand with Josh that at his best, he's the second best quarterback in football. But at his average, we'll see. And at his worst, he can lose you a game to Zach Wilson. Yeah. He's now lost 2 games to Zach Wilson. Yeah. I don't know if any quarterback in the Mountain West ever did that. Has anyone ever lost 2 games to Zach Wilson? We're going to have to check the high school archives. So it's a problem, and I am just, you know what? I'm just glad everyone, better late than never, Colin, I suppose. Yeah. So everyone now can join me on, hey, maybe we pump the brakes a bit on a guy who's currently the Madden cover athlete. Give me a break.
All right.
Give me a break.
Okay. Now, a little more serious tone. Very rarely in sports does something make me sick. I'm literally like, I'm on my TV. And I said, Aaron Rodgers is The Sopranos, except it's 3 hours. For Sunday, for 15 years, whether I agreed with him, disagreed with him, he gave me unbelievable, spectacular content. And it's gone. That's right. And he may never come back. 39-year-old, 40-year-old Achilles surgery. It's rough. I talked to a GM last night. He's like, this stuff heals much more slowly for a 40-year-old athlete than a 23-year-old athlete. What was your initial reaction? Let's just not the Jets, just with Aaron Rodgers going forward.
Well, I agree with you entirely. The immediate reaction was, you got to be kidding. And you feel terribly in this order. Immediately first for Aaron, and because it seemed like he knew right off the bat. Then secondarily, I felt terribly for Jet fans. I mean, it's 24 years ago today that Vinny Testaverde popped his Achilles. the last time the Jets had this much hype and excitement coming into a season, coming off the AFC Championship appearance in 1998. Week 1 that year, their quarterback goes down. It seems cruel, and I know Jet fans are no fans of mine right now because I was pessimistic about them going into the year. But then last night, watching the rest of the game, you somehow felt even worse because I think if you're a Jet fan today, how great Breece Hall looked, how fantastic that defense looked.
Yeah.
In some way is salt in the wound. Like, really? Our defense, does through week 1 look as good as advertised. Breece Hall looks fully healthy. Garrett Wilson makes the best catch of anyone in the league, in week 1. And yet now we're back on the Zach Wilson train. And then the last thing, the last party that you feel badly for, or at least for me, is the Jets front office now, Colin, which has a very difficult path to take, which is if Aaron wants to come back, they obviously will, embrace him back. But can you build your entire offseason and next year around a guy who will be 40, turning 41, coming off an Achilles? Do you have to have a contingency? The whole thing is just a total mess. And if I'm being totally honest, while the Achilles injury, of course, we didn't see coming, even if the calf injury back on OTAs maybe was the canary in the coal mine on this, those of us that were pessimistic about the Jets, the number one reason was that is a makeshift offensive line with a soon-to-be 40-year-old quarterback. And what you saw last night in just those 4 snaps and then in Zach Wilson's part of it was the Jets planning on Aaron Rodgers being available for all 17 games was, with that offensive line, was probably overly optimistic, but him lasting less than the first drive and then suffering the worst injury of his career, it's just cruel. And I feel terribly for Jets fans, and I feel terribly for Aaron because I was excited, even though I was pessimistic about it, I was excited to see this chapter of his career to see what it was going to play out like, and now it might go totally unread or unwritten.
So I have the Chiefs, Blaze, in my herd hierarchy at 5. As I said, they win the game with Travis Kelce. I thought San Francisco was sensational. Everybody else is mushed together. I mean, I'm on. We have. By the way, I think the Dolphins, Cowboys, Eagles, Chiefs. Once you have Travis Kelce and Chris Jones in, it's the same. But I think I had, out of respect for what the Niners did to Pittsburgh on the road, just completely dismantled the organization. It's won. But I want to ask you, my takeaway in the Chiefs' loss was, they don't after this year probably need Chris Jones. And I love Chris Jones. So what's your reaction? I thought it was very team-friendly on a one-year deal for arguably now, along with Aaron Donald, the best defensive lineman in football. What did you make of a one-year deal?
Well, listen, I think on the contract stuff, I think Chris Jones's agents did him a disservice. He had on the table 2 years, fully guaranteed, $54.5 million extension. He turned it down, accumulated more than $3 million in fines, and now he's back on the same salary, plus he's got to make up the fine money and incentives. So I think his agents didn't help him out here. I am thrilled he is back. The Super Bowl against the Niners, he made the plays in the fourth quarter against Jimmy G, the pass breakups that won us that Super Bowl. And I say us because, yes, of course, I am an unofficial member of the team. And then last year in the AFC Championship game, he ended the final drive that Burrow would have had to win the game. He deserves all the flowers and all the money, and I do hope that they work something out after the year as Chief for life. To your point, though, the reason, and I understand this was not, my most prescient take of all time, but the reason I predicted the Chiefs would go undefeated and win the Super Bowl, and I got a tattoo accordingly, was because I believed for the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era, they would have a top 10 defense. I thought when you played 7 rookies on defense last year, when you were going to have Chris Jones coming back and their big free agent acquisition, Charles Omenihu, has a 6-game suspension. He's coming back on the defensive line as well. That this defense could be pretty damn good, and we know the offense last year without Tyreek Hill was number 1 in points, number 1 in yards. So as much of a stomach punch as that Lions loss was, because it didn't have to happen, you had to walk away from that Lions game saying that defense played pretty damn well. Lions scored 21 points, 7 were on a pick six, another 7 were after a fake punt. They only had 2 offensive touchdown drives, and one of those drives went 3 and out, but they did the great fake punt. I think the Chiefs' defense can be top 10. I know the offense will be at minimum of top 4, which is why you having them 5th in herd hierarchy is just obviously patently absurd, but that's fine. It's fine. You didn't need to see more from Patrick Mahomes. I get it. What has he proven to you yet? I understand.
By the way, I was saying this, one final thing. You're not a college football guy like me, but you follow it enough. The fact that Deion Sanders was the driving agent for 9.5 million people to watch that game, I've been told a bigger rating than Texas Bama is, if that is not the power of stardom, Colorado football has never been fascinating in my life. And they are good now for 2 weeks in a row. Somebody said this morning to me. Don't be shocked if the Cowboys stumble if Jerry doesn't call Deion. What do you make of that story?
Well, all right. So first of all, shout out to the entire Fox College football team.
They're so good.
The smart executives, in the corner offices that made a big bet, if we're being honest, on Colorado. Yeah. And it is paying off in spades. Our entire pregame show, and all of it being out there and leaning into this. Here's the other thing about the rating that game did. Nebraska is a tough watch, man. Yeah. Colorado TCU was exciting and up and down.
Right.
That Nebraska game, I don't know if J-Mac was on the same thing. I did something that I hated myself for immediately, and I can't believe I'm going to admit this publicly. I bet Nebraska because the line seemed so fishy. I'm like, huh? 2.5 when the whole world loves Colorado? This makes no sense. And about 8 minutes into that game, I was like, this might be the worst bet I've ever made in my life. The Nebraska day, I don't think Tommy Frazier's walking through that door, and if he doesn't, we're in big trouble, boys. But here's the thing that I would say, because I know people are talking about Deion and the pros. Colin, do you think that an NFL job is necessarily better these days than a top college job? Like, I wouldn't so much be thinking about the pros as much as I'd be thinking about, man, if Deion went to LSU, I know they have Brian Kelly, so a true blue chip program, would he not be able to take everything he's done in Colorado and put it on steroids because of the recruiting advantages and make as much money as the top, everyone but the top 2 or 3 NFL coaches make? I think Deion is the story he's writing. I talked about it last week. We've never seen anything like it. One of the greatest football players ever, a damn good baseball player, and what he's building in the coaching profession, it's spectacular. And turning Colorado football into one of the biggest stories in the world, and his son is breaking Joel Klatt's records. The whole thing, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it.
It's great. Nick Wright, it is great to see you. Congrats on the success of First Things First, which follows our show and is the fastest growing show on cable sports TV in America. And the guy next to me, which is right on my screen, left, whatever. He's a big component.
Thank you so much. You're the best. And J-Mac, in all seriousness, I was feeling for you last night, man. Yeah. It's brutal. And now you ride with Zach Wilson and that defense. But I'll talk to you later.